Afternoon everybody, and welcome to the April GFM talk session. I hope you're all well and I hope colleagues enjoyed a nice break over the Easter holiday. The purpose of GFM talks is so that we can welcome colleagues from across the GFM and our local area to share their practice, their experiences and their thoughts within an educational context. At the GFM we recognise and we value the importance of sharing and the opportunity to learn from one another so that we can change attitudes, develop our outlook, as that will enable us to best serve those within our community. And our agenda here at GFM Talks is to create a safe forum in which we can share, learn and spark debate and/or conversation. This afternoon I'm here with Laura Fry from the primary phase of the GFM to talk about the importance of PSHE and wellbeing within schools as we reflect together on its importance in supporting our families across the GFM during lockdown. Laura is also going to share with us some of the new curriculum requirements and how colleagues from across the primary phase and the secondary phase have been working together to ensure the best delivery of the new curriculum so that our young people are ready for the challenges of tomorrow. So Laura, you're clearly really passionate about PSHE, so can you tell me about your journey with the subject so far?
Yes, so last year I was doing my NQT year and my mentor came to me and asked me what subject I would be most passionate about leading as a subject leader. So I mentioned PSHE was sort of top of my list. It's always been a subject I've been very passionate about, just purely because I feel it's really important. I think it underpins that ethos of learning for the challenge of tomorrow. So I worked with Sharon Toon here and I shadowed her for a while and watched what she did within the community, and then during the summer term when we were in our first lockdown, I worked with Sharon and I spoke to Dave Penfold and Shannon at Rowner, and we all worked together to talk about the new requirements that were coming in this year. So yeah, it was really good.
Fantastic. So very much shadowing a colleague at first, and then you've got ownership of what happens with the curriculum now, working with colleagues across the primary phase,
yes, yeah,
which is great.
Right.
That's absolutely fantastic. And you did a huge amount during lockdown, didn't you, to support the well-being of our young people and their families?
We did, yeah. There was a huge amount across the whole of the GFM that supported our families. One of the big changes across the whole GFM were the live lessons that were put in place, because originally we did recorded lessons in the first lockdown. So we took that learning and thought, well, actually, if we could do live lessons, the children would be seeing us every day, even though we were still in lockdown, they could still see us every day, which was nice. And we still did whole school assemblies as well, so they still had that message that even though we were apart, we're still together as a whole community. And my class absolutely loved that. They looked forward to that each week. Made sure every week we were having one sort of checked with me what time it was and things like that, which was nice. We also made sure that each class had a weekly check-in, so as well as the live lessons we had one session a week in each class where the teacher would have like a wellbeing session. So they would be, they'd come in their pyjamas or their dressing gown or bring something comfy or a teddy bear or a pet or something, and we'd just have a chat about, you know, what had gone well for them that week, or if there was anything they needed to share or talk about that they weren't feeling so good about, and it just gave them chance to just be together in a sort of different way to lessons, which was really nice.
Yeah. And trying to keep that sense of normality for them as well. I suspect like it was strange for all of us during lockdown, so for our young people and for their families at home, just to have that chance to see their teacher from school, the staff around the school site who they'd be used to seeing every day, being able to do that, just feeling a sense of normal, so important for their well-being.
I think for some of them as well, it sort of brought a light-heartedness, like that session, to be able to see their teacher in a dressing gown, you know, obviously with clothes underneath and you know, your normal work clothes, but we'd wear something snugly over the top, and we'd all bring our teddy bears as well, so that it was that light-hearted, bringing something fun and making them smile, and something nice for them to do during the week together that wasn't about the learning, but reinforced everything that we want them to sort of remember about being together. We had Wellbeing Wednesdays as well, so we sort of embedded Wellbeing Wednesday sessions where we had a key message each week that we shared with them, which we do different activities around, and that's something that we've carried on since coming back to school. So we do a Wellbeing Wednesday each week since being back. So for example, just before Easter we did a whole school thing where we talked about the positives we've taken from the past year. So we all know the negatives, but actually what have we learned from it, what's been really good about it. And the children shared things like actually they've got to spend more time with their families than they perhaps would have done before. And one of mine said, I appreciate my family a lot more than I did before lockdown, which was really nice.
Yes.
And so we made our sun catchers that are hanging in the window there. So each class has a rainbow sun catcher to remind us that there were lots of positives throughout that difficult time. So yeah, it's something that we've carried on. So it's been good.
Yeah, really nice that we've all been reflecting on the lockdown situations that we found ourselves in, and thinking about, it's easy, it can become quite easy to focus on all of the negatives and to be caught up in all of that. So actually taking that time to stop and actually think, there are some really positives about that, and for some of our young people to reflect on, I actually got to spend so much time with my families. I mean, what a lovely memory for them to have of undoubtedly what we know has been a really difficult time for them.
Yeah, I think as well, a lot of it in the media, you hear a lot of children falling behind and children's learning having these gaps in, which I think for them, they will hear that and it might be a bit of a worry for them. And so actually we did talk about actually how far ahead in technology they are in comparison to what we would have done at school at 9 years old. We wouldn't have been on Google Meets. They all said, we've used Jamboards and we know how to do breakout rooms and things like that.
Better than all of us.
yeah, exactly. They can set it up, and when I was struggling things, they were helping me with the technology.
I said
to them from that point of view, they're leaps and bounds ahead from that point of view, and they've been so adaptable. It's been really incredible.
Yeah, and for them to be able to recognise that as well, and to have that celebrated with. They obviously would have been celebrating that with family and whoever they got at home, but also to celebrate that with their teacher and as a class, and thinking, oh yeah, we have achieved this during lockdown, and we have done this. Really important for them. So yeah, in terms of their well-being, that side of things is something that we just can't forget about, and something that we all found was really crucial during lockdown, as we all looked after ourselves, wasn't it? So absolutely. And how important do you think it is that we openly discuss issues surrounding mental health? Because there's been, I can think even over recent weeks of documentaries and things that have been on about the importance of mental health for children, young people and adults. It's a real kind of topical issue at the moment, but one that can also have, I think it's fair to say, sort of a fair bit of sort of stigma attached to it, and people kind of shy away from that conversation. But actually, it is important to be open, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think, like you say, I think it helps remove that stigma, because actually they're hearing their teachers talk about it, they're hearing their parents talk about it, they're hearing it on TV. So all of a sudden, it's okay to mention that they're feeling a certain way.
Kind of normalised.
Yeah, it sort of brings in that culture where actually you can ask for help, rather than just dealing with it on your own, and actually. That way they know that they're not the only ones feeling that way. There are other people that feel that way, because I think sometimes with mental health it's very easy to feel isolated and feel like you're the only one in the world that feels that way. So for them to realise that actually these are normal emotions, that all I need to do is reach out and somebody will help me work through them, that's a really important message for them.
Yeah. And you shared several resources, didn't you? Links to online resources with the youngsters, but also with families, for parents and for carers as well.
We did.
And we've made them available to colleagues. So if any colleague is interested in looking at those resources, we have got the links to those on the GFM Talks page of the GFM website, and they will also be sent out. They have been sent out as well with the invitation to this talks. So we've got those as well.
Yeah, the one that was particularly popular with our children was the Childline Calm Zone. It's got yoga videos on there, it's got breathing exercises, but it's got games and activities as well. So it's full of different things, but there's support on there if they need it. And it offers support for parents and carers as well. So it's a really useful resource that's there for free for people to use. So that's been very popular.
And really important for our youngsters and families to know that those resources are there, and that they've got a go-to place where they can they know where to go to get that help and support.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? Can you tell me a little bit about the new relationships and sex education, the RSE and health education curriculum, and how you feel that's going to have impacted the status of PSHE within schools?
I think it's really raised the status of PSHE within schools, because you've now got conversations around it again, a little bit like with mental health. People are now talking about PSHE within schools, whereas perhaps before it was a subject that sort of was slotted in here or there to tick a few boxes off. Whereas now actually people are thinking about how important it is that children are getting these conversations not only at home but among their peers as well, which can actually be harder for people to have those conversations if we can create a safe space where children can have those conversations. I mean, for example, we talked about loss and bereavement in here yesterday as part of our Wellbeing Wednesday, and some of mine got really upset and actually cried within the lesson, and the way they supported each other was absolutely beautiful, and it just showed actually how comfortable they feel with each other to talk about those things. And it was although it was emotional and, you know, sad in a way, it was also lovely to see the support that they had for each other even at such a young age. You know, I'm only in year 4 and they're 9, so to have that maturity of, oh, it's okay to cry, that just shows that you love them to each other is just, you know, really heartwarming. It's really great that that's coming to the forefront, and you know, with the idea of child development in mind, it's sort of that Maslow before Bloom thing. You know, they need to have those basic needs. They need to feel safe. They need to feel like they belong, like they have a place before they can meet all of their educational needs.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's really key, isn't it, that schools create that environment and there's a culture within schools to create that safe space so that they absolutely can flourish in their learning. When you're absolutely right, when they do feel comfortable, when they do feel cared for, when they do feel nurtured and all of those other things that we would want to do for the young people that we serve, and to create that. And I think also the youngsters acknowledging that environment has been created for them.
And that they help create it as well,
because
they're part of that, so that having that responsibility themselves is good.
So positive experiences so far in terms of that new curriculum and how the youngsters have responded to that curriculum coming in.
Hugely positive,
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. And colleagues from across the primary phase of the GFN, they've been working really closely on a new RSE policy. So can you talk about the plans there? And I know we've already touched upon some of the resources that you shared, but the planning that's gone on there would be useful to hear about.
So Gomer and Rowner worked together over the summer to write a new RSE policy, which we looked at what our PSHE policies already were, and then what the new requirements had, and we took COVID into mind as well to think about what might need to be addressed there. So we've got the same intent and impact policies for both Gomer and Rowner, so that we're sort of offering the same thing across the schools. But our implementation policy is different, so that we know that it's appropriate for our cohorts, and adaptable to what they need, because that's the key thing with the RSE, is that it's taught appropriately for the children in your school. So it was really useful to have those conversations with Rowner to see what they were doing, and they shared some of the resources that they'd found with the new curriculum on. One was SCARF that we were looking at, and then we found one called Kapow Primary, which has been an amazing resource. They've got brilliant videos on there for sex education that you know, sort of more up to date than some of the ones you know that were available, and some lovely resources on there. So we've shared that between the primary phase as well, and
So this has also created a really great opportunity for colleagues to continue to collaborate and work together to co-plan on a new curriculum to share expertise. And I think that context is absolutely key, isn't it? In anything that we do, that we are thinking about the community that we're serving and what that community needs. So the fact there's that flexibility is really important, isn't it? And primary phase and secondary phase colleagues have also been working together, haven't they, on the teaching of the new curriculum?
We have, So we had a meeting with Chris Willis and Dave Penfold, and we were talking about team teaching, so that the secondary school teachers would actually come into year 6 and team teach some of the sex education lessons, so that the year 6 students got to know those teachers before going up to Bay House and Broome Park, so that actually when they get to Bay House and Broome Park, they already know the people that are going to be going into more depth with those things that perhaps would be a little bit more uncomfortable when you don't know the teacher than when you do know the teacher, and perhaps vice versa, some of the primary staff going up for those lessons so that they've got a familiar face and somebody they're perhaps more comfortable talking to. So really, really positive working across the GFM together.
And I think the fact that we can do that and that we've got that culture across the GFM of that collaboration and all working together, because at the end of the day what we've got at the heart is the needs of our youngsters and the pupils and students, and if that's going to give them that better experience, then that working together is really positive, isn't it? So that's absolutely fantastic. And I believe we've got a video clip that Dave Penfold has put together for us talking about the work that primary and secondary colleagues have done together and a bit about the team teaching. So shall we have a look at that now?
Hi, my name's Dave Penfold. I'm responsible for citizenship and PSHE across the secondary phase of the GFM. I head up a small team of teachers who teach citizenship PSHE to both pupils at Bailey House and Broome Park. Like my primary colleagues, we've been busy working on the new RSE curriculum, Relationships and Sex Education curriculum and policy. We've been going through our schemes of learning and our lesson plans to make sure that we're fully up to date, have included everything that we should be including. And I'm pleased to say that actually, things are going very well. We had most things in place already, so it's just been a few tweaks and changes for us. Okay, so we're good to go. We're ready to go. We've also been working with our primary colleagues, working on ways in which we can get into primary classes more. We want to be able to break down some of the barriers to work together with the primary school teachers, especially in year 6, to help with transition. We want to make sure that especially the RSE, the Relationships and Sex Education, that's going to the pupils in the primary schools, then has a smooth transition into secondary schools. We want to meet the pupils. We want the pupils to know who we are, who they're going to be seeing in secondary school. We want the pupils to, remember us. So when we are talking about relationships and sex education in secondary school, they'll know who we are. They'll know what we spoke about before and what we're going to be speaking about in the future. We also work very closely with our primary colleagues on transition. Very important. Ease the nerves of the youngsters, again, for the youngsters to meet us, to talk to us, to ask us questions. And we're very much looking forward to coming in the summer term, like I say, not only to be doing some team teaching with the RSE, but also some teaching with regards to transition and breaking down some of those barriers and taking away some of the pupils' anxieties and worries. So yeah, there should be a good team of us from the secondary phase, working very closely with the primary phase, and we're looking forward to keeping that going and to building on that relationship.
Huge thanks to Dave Penfold there from the secondary phase for sharing his perspective on the collaboration work between our primary phase colleagues and our secondary phase colleagues, particularly focused around the work that is going on around transition for our year 6 pupils, so that when they come up to join us in year 7 at either Bay House or Broome Park, they're feeling comfortable, particularly in relation to the RSE curriculum and PSHE citizenship lessons. So finally then, what's your vision sort of moving forward with PSHE and the teaching of RSE, and has that changed at all for you in light of the pandemic?
I don't think the vision of PSHE for me has changed as such, because I feel it's more important than just a timetabled slot. I think perhaps with the new curriculum that's come in, it would help create that vision where other people will realise it needs to be slightly more as well. However, the first time I came to Gomer, I could already feel that ethos within the school of it being a place of community, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to be part of the GFM. Was I walked in and it sort of automatically felt like, yes, this is somewhere I want to work. You could feel that team spirit, the way the children spoke to the adults, the way the adults spoke to the children. You could already sense that was in place. So I think it's a really strong community for that already, and I think we're just adapting and working with what we've already got, but in light of everything that's gone on. So yeah. And it's going to be, none of us are going to forget the past year.
and the times that we're still going through. So all the work that's gone on to normalise in conversation for us to talk with the youngsters openly about how they're feeling, and for them to feel that they can talk openly in school is really important. And then that kind of wraparound care with the parents and carers in our community, and we've got a huge amount of links across the GFM with community partners as well, and I'm sure there'll be future opportunities there to bring about and enhance the classroom side of that curriculum as well, which is just going to strengthen that, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's exciting.
Absolutely, and a really important part, and we have to remember, don't we, that the academic side of things of course that's hugely important. We want the very best outcomes for all the youngsters, but we're more likely to be able to achieve that working together with our colleagues and with the youngsters and with their families if we've got their well-being at heart, if we've got all of those those conditions right for creating really safe learning environments, so they absolutely are ready to go out into the world and embrace all of the challenges and to become the best version of themselves.
Setting them all up to succeed.
Absolutely. Laura, it's been so lovely to talk to you this afternoon about your work, and great to hear about the collaboration across the primary phase, but also with secondary phase colleagues as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you.
Should any colleague wish to submit any questions to Laura following tonight's GFM talks, then please complete the question submission Google form that was included in the earlier email that went out with the link to this talk on the GFM Talks YouTube channel. Any questions that we get, we will make sure that Laura gets those questions, and I'm sure she'd be happy to answer those. If there are any colleagues who are interested in talking at a future GFM Talks, then please do drop an email to talks@gfmat.org. If you could just share a bit of an overview of your talk, the title of your talk, and a little bit of information about that to talks@gfmat.org, then Megan Webb will be in touch about a future opportunity to talk. So thanks again to Laura for her time this afternoon. We wish everybody well. Take care, stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to welcoming you to the May GFM Talks. Thanks very much, everybody.